So good morning, everyone. It's Mary Collier speaking from the OMA, and before I get started, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me. So can you just let me know in the chat if you can hear me? Excellent. Good. Thank you. Loud and clear. All right, well, as I said, my name is Mary Collier. I'm the Professional Development Program Manager at the Ontario Museum Association, and I'm very happy to welcome you to the second webinar in our winter series. So we're very pleased to be partnering with the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport to present the Learning Lab Winter Series, focused on supporting museums with the Ministry's standards for community museums in Ontario. At the OMA, we've been working with the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport to provide resources relating to the standards at our website, so you can get to the CMOG Standards Resources page from our homepage at museumsontario.com. But we're particularly pleased that with this partnership, we can present the Learning Lab Winter Series of webinars focused on the governance and finance standards specifically. So the OMA has planned these webinars with subject matter experts to provide information on best practice, but also to provide a venue for you to connect with your museum and heritage advisors from the ministry to answer questions specific to the standards themselves. So our webinar next Thursday is on strategic planning, and it's really kind of the second part of this webinar. I'm sure this webinar will leave you with lots of questions about strat planning, so stay tuned for next week on that. And if you haven't signed up for that one yet, you can do so at our website, museumsontario.com. We also have a fourth webinar planned for April the 4th on museum and fundraising ethics, and registration will be open for that next Thursday, so keep an eye out for that. So we are very excited to have more than 80 people signed up for this, and already more than 50 signed in to participate, so that's a fantastic turnout yet again. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows how to participate today. You can see the slides in front of you, and thank you for responding to say that you can hear me. If you would like to ask a question or make a comment, just simply type your message into the chat box at the bottom of your screen and click send. If you don't want everybody to see your question, you can send it privately to the presenters by using the Send To drop-down menu and selecting All Presenters. So I'll be monitoring the chat, and we'll do our best to ensure that all of your questions are answered. But we only have an hour today, and if there's anything we don't get to in this webinar, please make sure that you identify it in your evaluation, and we'll try and follow up after the fact. So as you can see in the agenda, after this intro, I'm going to pass the mic over to John Linton, who's our presenter today. So please feel free to ask him questions about the content of the webinar. Following his presentation, there's going to be a 15-minute Q&A, and today on the mic we have Elke Weinstein from the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport with Kathy on chat. And so Elke will be able to answer questions about the governance standard itself. So now I'm just going to introduce our presenter. John Linton is a management consultant with TCI Management Consultants in Toronto. He's undertaken numerous projects in the arts and cultural, recreation, and entertainment sectors, including strategic and business planning, audience research and development, member surveys, pricing strategies, feasibility studies, public policy development, social and economic impact assessments, and program evaluations. John was formerly the director of Ernst & Young's Hospitality, Tourism and Recreation Group in Canada. In over 20 years of consulting experience, John has conducted work for a broad range of clients, including the Art Gallery of Ontario, the Royal Ontario Museum, the Ontario Science Centre, Metro Toronto Zoo, the Vancouver Art Gallery, the Canadian Federation of Friends of Museums, the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, and the Ontario Museum Association. So I am just going to let John take over from here. I'm going to press.
Start. All right. Can everybody hear me now? Great. Well, I can't seem to hear myself here, but I guess I'll just talk and over here through the headphones. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much, Mary, and welcome everyone. Mary, I wish it were true that I'd been working for a mere 20 years in this field. It's closer to 30 and maybe a bit more than that, so it makes me feel much older than I am or whatever, but anyway, thank you for that great introduction. This, as I guess you all know, is in a sense part of a two-part webinar. Today's session focusing primarily on vision and mission and the differences between the two and sort of how one can properly construct an interesting and useful mission and vision statement. And then next week, I guess this time, we'll be talking about sort of the whole strategic planning aspect, thinking in a sense that a vision and mission is a prelude to the undertaking of a full strategic plan. So that is the plan of attack for today and for next week as well. I've constructed today's session, let me just make sure I can do this properly. So hopefully you all see the next slide, which says 10 FAQs. We've constructed this little session on vision and mission in the form of 10 FAQs, or frequently asked questions regarding what is a mission, what is a vision. So I'll just kind of quickly take you through the 10 questions, and then we'll get into each one in turn. The first 5 are shown on this slide, and the first 3 of the 5 are in a sense definitional. So first, what is a vision and a mission? How are they different? How are they similar? What are other forms of a vision and mission statement? What are other terms that people might use that are in a sense code for or describe vision and mission? And thirdly, what are the key, in a sense, defining characteristics of well-crafted vision and mission statements? Then the questions 3 and 4 get into the benefits of having well-crafted vision and mission statements, and some of the dangers of not having well-crafted vision and mission statements. And I see somehow there we have 2 question 1s in the FAQs, but we'll sort that out as we get further into the presentation. The next set of FAQs, 6 through 10, and I'm glad to see the numbers here are correct. What are some of the common failings of vision and mission statements? Where have we seen them go wrong and perhaps not be as useful as they might be? Why do we feel that vision and mission statements are an essential first step in developing a strategic plan? In other words, why does a strategic plan sort of flow from or elaborate upon vision and mission statements? What is a recommended process through which vision and mission statements can be developed, and particularly in that, what is the role of the board and what's their unique kind of role in developing and endorsing and ensuring the promulgation of vision and mission statements? And then finally, on a day-to-day basis, from the board's perspective as well as staff and maybe members and the audience and so forth, how can vision and mission statements be useful on a day-to-day basis? I want to emphasize at the outset that, again, this is really the prelude to a strategic plan. There's really not a lot of sense, in my view, of sort of going through a mission and vision statement exercise if you don't then follow through with the logical underpinnings of how are you going to deliver that in terms of a strategic plan. So this is really the first part of, or the platform through which a strategic plan can be developed. So without further ado, I will launch into the first of our FAQs, which is, what is vision and mission, how are they different, and how do they relate to each other? And the way I think about this is that, in a sense, there's sort of the conventional wisdom of vision and mission statements, and then in a sense there's sort of the unconventional wisdom, or the unwritten aspect of it. Conventionally, vision and mission are sort of seen to be distinct in that vision is a statement of where you want to be in the future. It's an aspirational statement indicating where you want to be in typically 3 or 5 years' time. And mission is sort of how you intend to get to that vision position on a day-to-day basis through your daily actions. So another way to sort of think about them is that the vision is what you want to be tomorrow, and mission is today, how you're going to get there. Other formulations or other perspectives is that vision is really leadership, kind of showing the way and showing where the organization needs to be. And this could be an organization like a museum or a cultural performing arts or a private sector business. Vision is sort of the leadership outlining the future point where the organization needs to be, and mission is how you manage yourself on a day-to-day, weekly, monthly basis to get there. The unconventional approach to this is that, in a sense, these fine distinctions of exactly what is a vision being future-oriented, what is a mission being sort of today-oriented, is maybe a bit academic. And really, in the final analysis, perhaps it doesn't matter so much what you call them, as long as you've got some aspirational statement that indicates what you want to do and where you want to be, that is motivating for staff, motivating for the board, makes sense to your members, your volunteers, and so forth. That it, in other words, kind of encourages innovative and imaginative thinking. And we'll see in a little while in this presentation some examples of statements that might kind of get to that or do that. But I guess in short, at the end of the slide there, you need to be sort of acting today in a way that will ensure that you are where you want to be tomorrow or at some point in the future. So the second question, frequently asked question, is sort of, well, what are other forms of vision mission statements? And we hear a lot about statements of values, and often you see statements of values in a strategic plan, statement of purpose often articulated, mandate of the organization, and so forth. Typically, in my experience, these sorts of other statements tend to be more mission-oriented than vision-oriented. They typically sort of describe a current reality and a current modus operandi of the organization, and its sort of purpose or mandate rather necessarily than sort of future aspirations. But in a way, they're somewhat equivalent, that a statement of purpose really is the same as a mandate, which really is the same as a mission. And often in a strategic plan you see a statement of values which is articulated, which is sort of the generalized context in which the vision and the mission is sort of seen to be promoted. It kind of describes the values and the aspirations and the ways of operation of the staff and the board in terms of undertaking, fulfilling the mission, and getting to the vision. So it's useful sort of contextual information that often, as I say, we see in a strategic plan. Where are we? Preview slides. There we are. Sorry, I'm still getting used. I usually work on a Macintosh computer, and this is a ThinkPad, so it's a bit foreign and alien to me, but I'm getting the hang of it. Bear with me. Next FAQ is, what are some of the key characteristics of well-crafted vision and mission statements? And I guess maybe one thing to say at the outset of this little piece is that there's, in a sense, an art and a science to the development of a strategic plan, and in particular the development of a vision and a mission as the kind of leading part to a strategic plan. There's the science of it, which sort of says, in a sense, inexorably you sort of proceed from defining a vision and a mission to the sort of strategic action areas that are implied by that, and then the specific goals and objectives, all the way through to specific implementation details, who's going to do what, when, and what resources, and so forth. There is that kind of compelling logic to the structure of a strat plan. But also there is an art to the whole exercise. And in my view, kind of the art is as important, or maybe more so, than the science of the structure. And the art gets involved in terms of engaging people, articulating a purpose for the organization that is different from other organizations, and really sort of explaining in a sense the passion underlying the museum or the cultural organization or whatever it is. And so this starts to creep in when we talk about some of the key characteristics of well-crafted vision and mission statements. So one aspect is just sort of what they say. So mission, vision statements should be clear, should be articulate, should be unambiguous in terms of explaining the what and the why of the organization. And I always think of the why as the unique reason for existence. Every single one of you out there is unique in terms of the collection you've got, the building you've got, the nature of the visitors, the stories, the narratives, the themes that you portray. Each one of you is unique in that regard. And so vision and mission statement should be clear in articulating that unique difference. So really explaining why you exist as opposed to not exist. What is your kind of unique reason in the world for doing what you do? And by implication, by stating clearly what you are and why, it also kind of implies or suggests what you are not. And this is also useful in strategic planning, because a lot of organizations, museums, and other types of cultural organizations get caught up in trying to be a lot of things to a lot of people for the sake of pulling in visitors or generating revenues or whatever, and may lose sight of the unique mission and the unique vision that they're trying to promote in terms of why they exist. So just something to keep in mind. Often, well-crafted vision and mission statements also indicate specifically who your target market is, who it is you are doing all of this for. It may indicate the nature of the visitor experience, and it may sort of indicate the kinds of benefits and positive aspects that the visitor experience will provide to people. Other aspects of well-crafted vision mission statements are sort of how they say what they say, to convey some sense of the unique purpose, the unique reason for existence of the organization. And in my experience, well-crafted vision and mission statements are interesting and exciting. There's something about them that sort of captures the attention. They are motivating for staff. They're compelling for visitors. They're engaging for the board. They say something unique in an interesting and different way. And that's, when I was talking about the art and the science, that's clearly the art of creating a strategic plan and creating vision and mission statements that lead up to an effective strategic plan. There are a few sort of specifics in terms of the content of mission statements and vision statements, and I think this is sort of one way to think about it. Mission statements indicate what you do, why you do it, point number 3 there, and sometimes for whom you are doing it, or sometimes that's kind of implied by the geographical territory in which you're located or the mandate of the museum. But often mission statements rather talk about what, who, and why in that sense. And then, as we were saying before, vision statements are future oriented, so they indicate where you want to be, how you are going to be unique, whether it'll be the largest, the preeminent, most respected, leading, world class, whatever you may have. I see Kathy is making some faces, and we'll come back to that notion of world class, because you'll see it in one of the vision statements that we're showing you. And then often when you want to be there, whether there's some kind of time frame in, at the end of the decade or within 5 years or something like that. So these are some of the kind of specifics about the sort of what the content of what goes into mission and vision statements. Here's a few examples they're sort of interesting, and I should just tell all of you out there, I specifically chose non-Ontario, in fact not even non-Canadian examples, so as to avoid favoritism. So these are some examples from out of the country. But here's one to look at, the Toledo Museum of Art. A couple of things. There, I think, contained within this mission statement a couple of very powerful statements. Here we see the why, articulated in the sense of the power of art to ignite, to stimulate, to create enjoyment. A very strong statement there. And then the what, the kind of notion of integrating art into life. So I think a couple of very key, powerful statements embedded into the mission statement for the Toledo Museum of Art. Here's another one, the Monterey Bay Aquarium. It's very simple, to inspire. The what is to inspire, and the why is the conservation of the oceans. Very simple, maybe some may say too simple and too general, but to my mind, kind of an inspiring statement that's positive and really indicates beyond too much shadow of a doubt what they're all about. Here's another one that's the Wing Luke Asian Museum in Seattle. The what, clearly articulated, to preserve and present. The why, to promote a shared understanding between cultures. And the for whom is sort of implied because they are a Seattle-based museum and are doing this on for the Seattle populace. But again, and again, maybe some of you think, well, there are too many words there, it's kind of long, and maybe it is. But I think the essence of sort of their mission is embedded and embodied quite nicely in that statement. Let's look at a couple of vision statements. So again, the mission being sort of what they do on a day-to-day basis and why they do it, and the vision statement of where they want to be. Here's one from the National Museum of Australia: to be a recognized world-class museum from exploring the past, illuminating the present, imagining the future. So now, the concern here may be with this use of the term world class, which is a very sort of overused and kind of a jaundiced statement these days. It creates probably as much speculation now as anything. But nonetheless, it sort of does indicate what they want to do in terms of being a major presence, kind of noted as one of the top tier museums, certainly in Australia and I guess in the world, in terms of where they want to be. Rightly or wrongly, it does indicate where they want to be positionally in future. Here's another one, the Danforth Museum of Art, kind of again articulating a future position of being a national leader. That's not a claim you can make lightly. That certainly sets up some expectations and implications in terms of a strategy to get you there, to be that position as a national leader, using outstanding collections, another phrase that's embedded. So again, aspirationally, this statement provides some direction and some guidance to not only the board and staff, but also members, visitors, and so forth, as to where this institution wants to be in the future. And so you can sort of imagine how this could be useful in a strategic planning process to look at ways and means of actually getting the Danforth Museum to that future position. Okay, well, those are just a few examples. There are many more, of course, but we thought we'd just sort of show you a couple of them to illustrate the nature of the process. Time is moving along, and so must we. So we'll move to question number 4. What are the benefits of having well-crafted vision and mission statements? I've sort of broken this down into 2 parts. The first being sort of a guide for action, some things to think about in terms of what those benefits are, the benefits that result when you actually have the vision and the mission statement articulated. And then secondly, looking at the process through which an organization might go to develop a vision and mission statement and the benefits that come out of that sort of consensus building process. First of all, just looking at the value of the statement itself, well, it provides the organization, staff, and the board with clarity in developing policy that is faithful to and supportive of your future vision and your current mission. Provides clarity and some guidance in terms of how you're going to allocate resources to get there, clarity in terms of decision making, what to do, and innovation or choices you might make in terms of areas in which you want to try something new and innovate, assuming that they are faithful to your mandate. And provides sort of clarity to anyone on the outside, funders, members, visitors, the general public, who you are and the good things that you do for society and for the community, which is a good messaging position to be in for marketing, fundraising, getting the attention of government, and so forth. And again, here I reinforce this notion of you are unique, and your vision and mission statement should reflect that uniqueness. In a sense, you are essential because nobody else does the good things that you do. So I think those are the benefits in terms of providing a guide for future action of that are embedded or enshrined in your vision and mission statements. But also, and this is equally or maybe even more important, there's value in just the process of developing your vision and mission statements. If you do it right, it can be a process that engages the board, gets the staff energized, charged up, motivates and involves volunteers, key stakeholders, funders, resource providers, and so forth. And again, this kind of demonstrates how vision and mission are really the first part of the overall development of a strategy, and you really need to sort of go through the whole process, engaging and involving all of the parties. The whole process really builds a common understanding of the institution, why you exist, where you want to be, how you're going to get there, and that in turn engenders and generates trust, respect, and I sort of think of it as, in a sense, the ultimate team building exercise. And there's no doubt, having gone through a number of strat plans with a number of organizations, that at the end of it, you have a very well-functioning, or often, not always obviously, but often you have a very well-functioning group in terms of your board, your staff. There's a lot of trust, there's a lot of mutual respect, there's enjoyment in being in one another's presence. I've been involved in a few exercises where sort of almost lifelong friendships have come out the other end. So it can be a very bonding kind of process, as well as resulting in the clarity of the vision and mission itself and the subsequent strat plan. Let's look a little bit about look towards the dangers of not having these sorts of guiding and mission statements. And again, without naming names or telling tales out of school, a lot of the work that me and my colleagues have been involved in and being called into organizations to help with various aspects of vision, mission, or the overall strategic planning process is because the organizations have got into a situation where the waters are muddied, they're not sure where they're going or why, and so forth. So the danger of not having these sorts of guiding principles, vision, mission statements, is that the organization is subject to drift, maybe sort of fadism, where the latest thing that comes along, or a board member has some crazy idea to do something and nobody's got a better idea, so the organization sort of drifts or follows that fad. There's uncertainty, all of which can lead to a situation where the overall image and reputation of your museum may suffer among the general public and your funders, but also just among your peers as well. And you lack the benefits, or you don't have the benefits of having gone through the kind of team building exercise that I was alluding to a moment ago. So I think there's some real dangers of not having vision and mission and the subsequent kind of strategic plan. There are some dangers in terms of the lack of having a vision mission statement, as I was saying, but also in the way that they are created. If you don't have sort of properly constructed vision mission statements, there may be a problem in terms of sort of having that lack of driving vision, where there is sort of just complacency or no perceived need to change or improve or get better year after year towards some sort of aspirational vision. If you don't go through this exercise, the vision, mission, as well as the overall strat plan, there's no real kind of understanding of why you are doing what you do, or what you do, as the slide says. Sometimes there's a symptom of this, I think, is that there's sort of endless time spent wordsmithing and dancing on the head of a pin in terms of getting an articulation of a vision or a mission statement, and just at the end of the day kind of going through the motions in terms of one of these exercises. So some of the common failings of vision and mission statements in terms of how they may be created in the first part. And then looking at their kind of execution, vision and mission statements that are not well done, I think, are subject or lead the organization into some peril in terms of the execution of a plan that then is based on those maybe non-inspirational vision and mission statements. So the organization, the museum, sort of just maybe sort of copycat, get into that sort of mode of just doing what everyone else is doing, not really understanding or pursuing their uniqueness, which in turn can breed skepticism, and particularly if vision and mission statements are seen to be not realistic or too utopian, too aspirational. Pie in the sky is a word some may use, that it just breeds skepticism and the disbelief that the organization can actually accomplish these things. And as a result, the whole thing gets shelved. And the notion that, well, we've kind of done the vision, the mission statement, and maybe our strategic plan, let's put that on the shelf and get on with the day-to-day, which is the kind of ultimate admission of failure, I think, because the true sign of success is we've done the vision, the mission, our strategic plan, now let's start living it, let's start implementing it. It becomes an ongoing guide rather than something, a beautiful document that sits on a shelf. Why are vision mission statements sort of an essential first step in developing a strategic plan? This may almost be self-evident, but up to this point. But again, sort of basically, I see that it is the fundamental context in which the organization proceeds. So the strategic plan is the way, the roadmap through which you follow the steps to get to where you want to go. The vision mission is the kind of fundamental context in a lot of ways. There's an old saying that says, if you don't know where you want to go, any road will take you there. And so we're talking about a process that's the exact opposite of that. It is knowing where you want to go through your vision and mission statement, and then the road that takes you there is your strategic plan. So vision and mission does set that sort of fundamental stage or context in which the plan is rolled out. It ensures, going through that exercise, ensures that everyone is in agreement with where you are going and how you're going to get there. So there is that kind of consensus on the part of staff, the board, members, volunteers, and all of the constituents who are part of your larger museum community. And as well, the mission and vision statements, particularly maybe the vision statement, kind of suggest areas of action that suggest where you want to go. And this could make you question some of the areas of current practice that may not be on point or on strategy or on mission, on vision in terms of where you want to go. And so it's a useful discipline going through vision and mission setting to then look back on what you're actually doing and whether that is faithful to or consistent with your vision and your mission. What is a recommended process through which to develop or revise your vision and mission statements? Frequently asked question number 8. A couple of points here to make. First of all, who to involve in the development or the revision of an existing vision and mission statement. I guess strong advice would be, don't just do it on your own. Don't just sit away in your office and maybe get one or two other staff members and kind of hive off and do it in an afternoon. But rather take the advantage of the opportunity to create a team building exercise and to involve other constituents in the operation. So involve the board. This is, after all, fundamental to their responsibility as a governance entity for your museum to help pilot the ship, to determine where it is the ship needs to go. So they need to be involved in the crafting and the development of vision and mission statements. Consult staff. Staff are as you all know, they are the ones who have the day-to-day interaction with the public, the people for whom you are doing all of this, and so consult staff, involve them. Again, think that this can be a team-building exercise and a way to kind of energize, motivate, and fully involve staff. The community as well, volunteers, users, like teachers or the tourism industry, if your museum happens to be a tourist attraction in your community, local politicians, general public, a whole wide range of community groups and organizations and constituents who could be involved. The OMA, as this webinar hopefully and others and the full set of resources available through the OMA can be a great support and assistance. Your peers and sometimes consultants can even help with the process of developing or revising vision and mission statement. And I say that in full disclosure of the fact that I am a consultant and make in part my bread and butter from that sort of activity. So that's a little bit about sort of who to think about involving in the development of vision and mission. In terms of these kind of strict process, I find it helpful to kind of think in terms of 3 chunks of work or 3 areas of activity. And the first of all is to kind of fully and completely understand your current situation as it relates to your vision and your mission. And I guess whatever you're doing and however you do it, like it or not, you are acting as though you have a de facto vision and mission statement. So whatever it is you do, even if it may be sort of vague and uncertain and just kind of following through day to day, you are in a sense acting according to a vision and a mission statement. Maybe the vision that you're acting is to be the same in 5 years' time as you are now, and maybe the mission is just to do tomorrow what you did yesterday. Nonetheless, whatever you're doing, there is sort of a de facto situation. So the first step is to kind of really come to grips with that. Try to understand where you are in terms of your vision and mission, try to articulate what you're doing, and often it's useful to kind of give a bit of thought to sort of the values of the organization. You may remember at the outset of this I was talking about how a statement of values can be a useful contextual piece to the development of vision and mission, and at this point it might be useful to do that, just to kind of see if you can agree on and come to some consensus about your statement of values as an organization and as a museum and society. Then the second step, once you've sort of done that and kind of analyzed or assessed your current situation vis-a-vis vision and mission, to identify the weaknesses and sort of what would you like to change about that de facto vision and mission statement. Identify areas where your current modus operandi and your future vision is not perhaps exciting or challenging or responsive to opportunities or engaging of your various publics. And then the third step is to reinvent the vision and mission according to some of the principles that we've talked about in the previous 7 FAQs. So this is a process that's kind of useful to think about in terms of going through the revision or the development of vision and mission. And again, I emphasize that the context of this is not as a standalone exercise just to develop a vision and mission statement, end of story, but rather as a prelude to a full strategic plan that looks at exactly how you're going to deliver on that mission and ultimately achieve that vision. And I think I just sort of said this, that a key part is to remember that this is not an isolated one-off exercise. It's not isolated and one-off in terms of who you involve. It should be as inclusive as it needs to be. And it's not isolated or one-off in terms of where it goes. It should lead to an ongoing strategic plan that is sort of updated regularly, and we'll talk about all that next week. But nonetheless, again, vision mission is really the starting point to a much larger, much more exciting, broader kind of exercise. Coming to the end, I think, frequently asked question number 9, what's the role of the board in all of this, in creating and endorsing vision and mission statements? Well, it's exactly that. It's creating and endorsing those statements and then ensuring that they are used. So first of all, of course, participate in their creation, and being involved in a number of exercises where it's interesting that up to the development of the strategic plan and the kind of embarking on that journey together, the board may have been sort of disconnected from the process, kind of rubber stamping things that are brought to them by staff and not really fulfilling their board obligations in guiding the organization, in sort of governing where it needs to go as an entity in society. So I think involving them, participating in the creation of vision and mission statements, and of course the following strategic plan is essential. And then once the vision and mission statement and of course the following plan is developed, to approve it, to say we endorse this, we're behind it, we as an organization approve this direction and want to move forward according to the plan to develop or to achieve the vision ultimately. And so really a key role of the board, in my view, is to ensure that the process does not just end at vision and mission, but rather that there is this entity called strategic plan that ensures that you as an organization can get there. And I guess other things that the board needs to keep in mind is to ensure that once the plan is developed, the vision, mission, and the strategic plan, to ensure that all of the ongoing policies of the institution are consistent with and are kind of help to fulfill and achieve the vision and the mission of the organization. Policies are, in a sense, contingency plans. They're sort of statements of, well, in this event, we as an organization are going to do the following, A, B, and C. So they're set up as a guide to a decision so that you can sort of pre-think some of the situations that you will get into as an organization and how you are going to respond, whether it be partnership development or marketing or what all of the set of policies governing an organization. But all of these need to be reviewed in the context of the vision, mission, and strategic plan to ensure that they are consistent with and will help help to fulfill and deliver that vision and mission. And so in a sense, I like to think in terms of at a board level and at a senior management level as well, for all major decisions that are made, they would be nested back to how is it true to the vision, to the mission, and how does it better enable us to deliver on that mission on a day-to-day basis going forward, and ultimately how does this decision help us as an organization, as a museum, to achieve our vision. So I think those two things need to be embedded in and almost second nature to a board and to the senior management team in terms of strategic planning. And I think that brings us to our final frequently asked question, which is building on what I was just talking about. How can vision and mission statements be useful on a day-to-day basis? I think there are a few things that can be done that really ensure that vision, mission, and the whole strategic plan is kind of kept front and center. First of all, seen some organizations, a number, that use the vision and mission as sort of constant reminders for staff. So maybe it's printed on your business card, maybe not, it should be on the website. In some places they've got a little nice looking printed version that is above everybody's desk. Some places as you go in the door or in the lobby of the organization, there's the mission and vision stated for all to see. So constant reminders for staff and really everybody else about what you are about as an organization. And again, if the vision and the mission are articulated in an exciting, engaging, upbeat kind of way, that can be a very motivating thing for everyone from the board on down to the first-time visitor to the organization. Secondly, I think it's very important to have as an orientation reminder at the outset of every board meeting and senior management team meetings what the vision and the mission is. I've been on a few boards, and I can recall a couple of occasions where in each case, each board I've been on, we sort of went through that exercise. In some cases as a result of my urging, but anyway, I can remember a couple of cases where we actually came back to decisions that we were talking about and looked at them in light of the vision and mission, and I think made changed what we might have decided otherwise to be more faithful to that particularly vision statement in future. So I think it's a very important thing to have as an orientation reminder for all board meetings. And then, as I was saying before, key criteria for all decisions made. How is it true to the mission? How does it help us fulfill or ultimately achieve our vision? Oh, good grief. And that is the... Yes. Mary says this is the time to call for questions. So please let us know your questions. And Mary, I believe you are going to adjudicate the questions and forward whatever may come. How do I do for time? Okay. Yeah, right. One thing I should just say is I apologize that this was such a text-heavy presentation. Normally I like to use a lot of visuals and so forth, but they wanted me to pack a whole lot of information into a very short period of time. So, and I guess this may be useful as an ongoing resource to people. So anyway, it's very text-rich. Well, either I was crystal clear or everyone is asleep. Okay. Okay, so there's a question here. Once we have reached our future, do we have to change our vision? Which is a very interesting question, and thank you for that. I guess maybe a couple of points on that. One is that, as we will again discuss next week, you never sort of reach a point where you have, or at least in my view, you never achieve your plan and clap your hands and dust it off and put it to bed and never visit again. A strategic plan is an ongoing, living, breathing kind of document and process, really, that you should sort of constantly be reviewing. So next week we will talk about the need for looking annually at sort of what you've achieved, where have you, have things been a success, where have you maybe gone off the rails a little bit, how do you need to adjust, and so forth. And then on a probably 3 or 5 year basis, having another sort of more comprehensive look at the overall strategic plan, and is your vision and your mission still appropriate given your current circumstances? Are there things you want to do differently, and so forth? So it becomes an ongoing exercise rather than a one-off. And this is appropriate, as we all know. There are new opportunities that arise. There are situations change, new contingencies happen. So you constantly need to be monitoring and sort of looking at things and determining whether you need to change. So in terms of the question about whether we've reached our future, do we have to change our vision? I'd say in a sense you never reach your future. Your future is always an act of becoming. It's always beyond you, and so you always need to be looking at whether your mission or your vision is appropriate to that future and to those circumstances that you face. So you should always be kind of, in a sense, looking over your shoulder, double checking your vision and your mission to see whether it's still on point, still appropriate, and it really is an ongoing process rather than a one-off exercise. So that was that. Yeah. How So the question is, how do you recommend thinking about, where'd it go? Sorry, it just flipped away from me. How do you recommend thinking about external audiences versus the museum internally when developing a vision statement? I guess there probably is no sort of hard and fast rule on this, but I always like to involve external audiences, and I guess I sort of think of external audiences as being those who are not directly employed by or responsible for the organization. So think about external audiences as being volunteers. They're not really external. They certainly, volunteers feel a passion for your museum, involved and part of it. So it's only very technically that they're an external audience, but I think they often have great ideas, and many of them have been with the institution for years and have some sense as to where it should be going and so forth. So I think it's very important to consult them. Your political masters or supporters or whatever, another key, in a sense, external audience, but somebody who needs to be consulted. Your members, the general public, key users, the educational community, the tourism community, even in many cases the business community. Partners, either funding partners or program partners. I think all of these, in a sense, are external audiences, but they all clearly have a stake in your organization, in the museum, and often have great ideas about where it might go and how it should get there. So I think that they need to be involved in the creation of the process of the mission and vision and the plan ultimately, just as staff do. Often in my work, we've worked with, for example, a kind of executive steering committee that's been representative of the board and staff, but also included key volunteers, key users, and in some cases members. So I would advocate sort of having that kind of internal and external group to assist in the development of the plan and the vision and mission statement as the preface to the plan. So I'll just try to go through these questions in order, or the ones at the bottom are the oldest. Okay. Oh, have you? Oh, okay. 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 Let me. So I've been so busy blathering away here, I haven't really looked at them. So here's one. I supervise 2 museums and an archive. Should we have individual mission vision statements for each and an overarching? Oh, and then it's cut off. But anyway, so yeah, I would encourage In this case, I'm not sure if you're sort of the two museums and the archives are part of one overall municipal department or entity or whatever, in which case maybe you want to give some thought to the kind of economies of scale and the kind of cluster benefits of having these things together. So thinking about them as an overall entity that's providing benefits in the community. But then at a disaggregated level, yeah, it probably does make sense to think for each individual museum and the archives what its particular unique purpose is, and then how, thinking strategically, you might be able to develop a plan for that. But recognizing that there will be some real synergies and commonalities and positive benefits in doing these things together, and sort of looking at where resources can be shared and programs can be jointly developed and that sort of thing. Again, it kind of gets back to the art and the science, and there's probably more art involved here, but undoubtedly there are areas where the three entities, the two museums and the archives, can work together and kind of achieve some common benefits in the community. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, great. Here's a question about who should lead the process if you can. I suspect that should be can't, but if you can't afford a consultant, who should lead the process? We have found, and I've advised some organizations about this, that almost inevitably in your larger constituency, your members, somebody on the board, somebody at the staff, some key volunteer, somebody's been involved in a strategic planning process, and often feel that they can kind of step up to the plate to help guide and develop a process. So I would sort of identify and tap into those resources in your local communities where you can find them. As I say, inevitably somebody's been through this process, been around the horn before, and you could tap into that. Secondly, I think the OMA is prepared to assist either in terms of providing advice or some guidance in terms of structure and so forth. So I would sort of tap into that resource as well. Thirdly, your peers. I mean, the OMA, a large part of the reason for the existence of this organization is to share experiences, is to learn from one another, is to tap into that huge common base of experience. So I think your fellow OMA members could assist as well in this kind of process. Maybe, for example, there's a way that one museum can help another one today, and then tomorrow they can in turn return the favor. So there may be those sorts of opportunities. Do we have time for another question or two? 7 more minutes. Oh my. Okay. Let's see. Dealt with that one. There's a question about how many meetings do you feel this would take? That's a very interesting question. It's sort of a variation of the how long is a piece of string question. Thinking again, my bias probably shows here that I think vision and mission statement is only one piece of the puzzle, and the whole thing is a strategic plan that outlines the various action areas and the goals and objectives and all that kind of thing, which we'll be talking about next week. The number of meetings to create that overall strategic plan, I guess it sort of takes what it takes in a way. Some organizations, some museums can do it quite efficiently. Maybe it only takes 3 meetings, an initial one where you kind of pull all the players together and do some brainstorming and so forth, and then maybe out of that you create a few little task forces who kind of go off and do things, and then at some midpoint you bring everybody together again and you kind of hash out where you are and where it's going, and then people go off and do a few things, and then at the end you pull it together in terms of your final strat plan. So it could take as few as maybe 3 meetings of your planning group. And again, based on what I was saying earlier, and we'll be talking about this again next week, but your planning group might include your board, your staff, your members, that larger constituency that I was talking about. So it could be as few as 3 meetings, could be as many as I know I've been involved in processes that have sort of 8 or 10 meetings, but But that's not to say there's anything wrong with that. It's actually a very good discipline to kind of meet frequently and sort of cross-check with one another and ensure that the evolution and the development of the plan is happening on track and is on point and so forth. And then again, and you'll get sick of hearing me emphasize this, but think in terms of the strat plan not being an endpoint, not being a one-off, not being a we've done that, let's fold up the tent and walk away. It's an ongoing process, which is going to require, no surprise, ongoing meetings. So really, once you start a process like this, you shouldn't think in terms of really necessarily an endpoint. I mean, it's useful to kind of have the plan articulated so it can guide action, but it's never really done. You've never really achieved that future. It's always in the act of becoming. So you're going to need constant meetings, not meetings every week or anything like that, but you're going to need to revisit the plan, to evaluate, monitor. Again, we'll be talking a lot about those aspects of the strat plan in our next session. So here's a question. We've sorry, I can't seem to get the whole question, but it's we have just done the vision, mission, and strategic plan, and it is time consuming. It is now in the draft review stage, but okay, do you have the rest of that, Mary? Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, okay. So, as you say, Kathy, not a question, but an endorsement. Well, thank you. That validates this process, I guess. Okay, are there other questions that you guys want me to address? Because meetings, no questions here. Everything was clear. Okay. Oh. I guess my view on that is that it never hurts. It's the difficulty I often have with sort of statements of principles is that they're very similar. That they're very humanist in their orientation. They're supportive, positive, affirmative in many respects. It's all good stuff. But often statements of principles don't really articulate that unique why of your organization. Why do you exist versus not exist? What is it that you do that nobody else does? What is it about what you do that's exciting, engaging, and purposeful? So that's the real juice to my mind in terms of a properly constructed vision and mission statements. The statement of values, it's fine, well and good, and you can have that on your website and nobody's going to object, but it really doesn't necessarily get at the essence of why you do what you do. Anything else that I guess I've got about 2 minutes left before. I can't see any other questions that we haven't really talked about. So maybe at this point is it over to Elka. So I will mute my microphone. Thank you for forbearing, everybody, and listening to me.